Welcome everyone to our June Ordinary Council meeting. I'd firstly like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people, the traditional custodians of this land on which we are meeting, and pay our respects to elders past, present and future. Before we move into normal business, I need to make a formal statement as a result of changes to our Code of Meeting Practice. Council at its reconvened May 2019 meeting adopted its new Code of Meeting Practice in accordance with the Office of Local Government requirements. One of those requirements was the compulsory webcasting of all council meetings. Tonight will be our first. As a result of the webcasting, it's incumbent upon me to read out the following statement. I inform all those in attendance at this meeting that the meeting is being webcast and that those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements concerning any person, councillor or employee, and refrain from discussing those matters subject to closed council proceedings as indicated in clause 14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Thank you. All those present, do we have any apologies?
Councillors Smith and Thompson.
I understand we have two apologies, Councillor Smith and Councillor Thompson, who are away on personal business. Could I have someone move the adoption of that? A seconder. It's been moved, Councillor Ring. Seconded, Councillor Goodwin. All those in favour? Those against, declare it carried. The confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting in May. Could I have someone move the formal adoption of those minutes?
Yeah, I'll move that way.
It's moved, Councillor Goodwin, seconded, Councillor Ring. Any comments before I put that? Councillor Leslie?
I have some too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I actually have an amendment to the minutes. I'd like to add. I'd like the following to be added to the minutes. Councillor Leslie asked why the councillor information session was not held until the 20th of May, despite the General Manager's email of the 17th of April advising councillors of the requirement that funds are to be fully expended and programs completed by the 31st of December 2019, and this to be inserted immediately before the comment that is currently in the minutes. Before the comment, the General Manager gave advice on the time delay comments made by Councillor Leslie, which you'll find on page 20 of the minutes.
I know the minutes are simply to reflect decisions taken at that council meeting. Do you have any view, GM?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think the minutes need to accurately record the reasons and not just the statement made by Councillor Leslie. I'm quite happy for Council if they so wish to amend the minutes, but I'd like the opportunity as the GM to explain why the delay was occurred. And that delay occurred because there was a request from Councillor Leslie to Council to consult with the community, and accordingly we consulted with the community, and therefore there was a time delay as a result of that process. So if the Council so wish, we can amend the minutes as Councillor Leslie suggests, but I certainly would like to make that explanation.
Well, simply an amendment is just wait for a moment. Any views by any other councillors in relation to what's been proposed? It's not a formal motion, it's virtually amending the minutes. I haven't got a problem with it. I don't think it really does too much one way or the other. I haven't got a problem accepting his amendment. Okay, it looks like we've got everyone in agreement with that. Any other matters before I formally? Yes, Councillor Coleman.
I also have issues with the minutes, Deputy Mayor. Page 29 of 33, I note that in regards to my motion, that the commentary is very selective, especially the last point. It says, the Mayor asks that any councillor who wishes to hold a position on an external committee should seek a council resolution prior to nominating for the role. And I responded to that in my right of reply, And my right of reply was, I found that highly offensive, considering I was an elected councillor representing the community and that everybody in this room was equal. My question is, why is only partly the commentary there in the minutes? Shouldn't it not be all the commentary or none of the commentary? So can I get a response in regards to that?
I'm just asking for the minute to be put up so I can have a look at it.
Page 29 of 33.
Once again, I simply make the point the minutes reflect what decisions are taken by council at the meeting. No, just,
Mr. Deputy Mayor,
yeah.
that's the trouble. They're not doing that.
Well,
That's
we're,
exactly the problem. They're not doing that.
Councillor Leslie, we're about to find out. I just want to see want to have a look at the item that Councillor Coleman is raising.
So, Deputy Mayor, if I may, the commentary there should be commentary or not commentary. There needs to be a fair and fast rule on this. You either report all commentary or you report no commentary, to be fair.
Well, and I agree, and I've been told that the minutes are simply to reflect the actions and decisions of council, not the commentary. The commentary, of course, resides in the items on the business papers when we deal with them. So that's why I'm asking for it to be shown at the moment.
So I would request it either commentary shown or none at all.
Well, we need to once again have a look at the code of meeting practice in relation to how we deal with minutes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can I just... I'm looking at the minutes now. What page was it?
Page 29 of 33, Mr Faulkner.
29 or 33. I've got business of great urgency.
Page 30, yes.
Sorry, page 30, was it? I've got 29 through to 30. But the commentary's on page 29, I believe.
Let's have a look. 29. Okay. So what we have is... is this resolution 19/154?
The resolution is, the motion was 10.3 and the resolution is, 19/154.
So, Mr Mayor, Councillors, Resolution 19/154 reads that Lithgow City Council provide continuing support to Councillor Cassandra Coleman in her role as President of the Australian Local Government Women's Association.
I don't have any problem with that. It's
No,
the
I'm just reading it through for
Yeah,
Council.
just
I'm just reading it through.
Yeah, it's the commentary I have problems
I'm
with.
coming down to it, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's moved by Councillor Coleman, seconded by Councillor Ring, carried unanimously. Four divisions, for Councillor Thompson, McAndrew, Coleman, Goodsall, Goodwin, Leslie, Ring, Smith, against nil. Point of order. Councillor Ring called a point of order on Councillor McAndrew as he stated that the Trove visit did not go ahead due to budget constraints. Councillor Ring asked the General Manager to clarify if the air tickets were already purchased. The General Manager confirmed the air tickets totalling 1,300 were already purchased. Is that the commentary you're talking about?
Yes,
Councillor McAndrew stated that the resolution of previous council meeting where more information was requested in relation to alga costs had still to be enacted. The General Manager informed council that there is a report coming to council in June. The Mayor asked that any councillor who wishes to hold a position on an external committee should seek a council resolution prior to nominating for the role.
Yeah, and then I responded, so my right of reply is not in the commentary in regards to that particular statement. So my issue is, all the commentary is put into the minutes or none at all?
Okay. Well, Mr Mayor...
It's clear based on past discussions around the minutes that the commentary shouldn't be there. The point of order has to be there because it is part of reporting properly and appropriately and transparently on what is raised, and as far as I'm concerned it should have ceased at the point of order and the ruling on the point of order, and that's where it should cease.
I concur with that.
It stops at the point of order.
Okay.
So
I-
the amendment is,
I agree, based on my understanding of the what the minutes. I agree with you, Councillor Coleman.
So, Mr Mayor, can I just clarify then, if
Yep.
that's the case, then it's the last paragraph of that minute that comes out, is that
So
right?
last one, two,
The Mayor
three,
asked that any councillor wish to hold a position of external, that should come out.
the last four.
All the way
Last
up to the
four.
point of
Yeah.
order, Deputy Mayor.
I agree.
Okay.
Yep.
So the point, it stops at the point of order?
Yes.
Everything is removed?
Yes. I agree.
We just need to move the second.
Yep. Can I get someone to second that resolution, proposal by Councillor Coleman? It's been seconded. Now let me come back to the minutes as amended. I think we have a mover and a seconder for the minutes as amended. We have that. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Leslie? In favour or against the minutes?
I just abstain on this one, as I'm entitled to under the new code of conduct.
Yeah.
New code of meeting practice adopted. The new code of meeting practice adopted.
Abstaining means a vote
no
against.
longer isn't required for councillors to have to vote on issues.
Well, if we're going to have that, debate, we will have that later on. But let's start.
Sorry, Mr Deputy Mayor, it was actually carried at the last council meeting, that code of meeting practice.
We will deal with that with a.
Do you want to check the minutes?
We will deal with that in a moment. So we have Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Statham, Councillor Ring, Councillor Goodsall, Councillor Coleman in favour of the motion. Councillor Leslie abstaining means an abstention. As an abstention is a vote against the motion, so it's deemed as against.
Mr Deputy Mayor, I didn't hear anyone actually call for a provision.
No one did,
Well, in that case, why are you calling the names those?
because that is our.
And against, because it's not part of the current code of meeting practice as adopted at the last council meeting.
The resolution of council is
Yep,
passed prior
yep.
to code.
A resolution of council, irrespective of the code of meeting practice, resolution of council was passed on the 29th of the 10th 18 in relation to voting at council meetings, and I quote what was resolved by the council at that time and is still in place, and I quote that council record in the meeting minutes the names of all councillors who vote for or against all motions. Where a vote on a motion is unanimous and a division has not been called, the unanimous vote will be recorded in the minutes without the inclusion of the names of councillors. The voting record keeping requirements will only apply to council meetings and not to meetings of committee of council. That was moved, that was seconded, and the vote was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 3 in favour. That is current policy of council. The code of meeting practice does not overrule that resolution of council.
With respect, Mr Deputy Mayor, that has now been superseded by the
I told you this.
and I draw your attention to the February of this year by the General Manager, and I'll quote. Up until 6 months from the date on which the new council failed to adopt a new meeting code of meeting practice. Within this period, any provisions of the council's adopted meeting practice are mandatory through addition to the body meeting. But we also put out to the general public all the stuff is written, and now I know that you don't like to be reading out the stuff is written.
Mayor, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out of order. We've already dealt with this. There's a standing resolution. There's a standing. I'm speaking, Councillor Leslie. There's a standing resolution. We have a code of meeting practice. which did not adopt any of what you were referring to in the red. You were told that at the last meeting by Mayor Thompson. You're being told again tonight by myself. We have a code of meeting practice, which we adopted at last meeting. We also have resolutions of council that what I've sought advice from, I've got the GM to seek advice from, that's still appropriate and in place. And that is the resolution that I just read out, that all meetings and the voting of councils are recorded. That's my ruling. That's my ruling.
Dissent from your ruling?
All right. We've got moved to dissent from my ruling. Those in favour? Doesn't need a second. Yep.
Thank you.
He doesn't. Yeah, just hang on for a moment. He doesn't need. Okay. All right, Councillor Leslie. Yep.
11.11. All voting at council meetings, including meetings that are closed to the public, must be recorded in the minutes of the meetings with the names of councillors who voted for and against each motion or amendment, including the use of the casting vote being recorded. Note, if clause 11.11 is adopted, clauses 11.16 to 11.9 and clause 11.13 may be omitted. That was not put out to the community. That was not given an opportunity for the public to make a comment, and that was deleted from what was put out to the community. Therefore, we revert back to the previous position because this supersedes all motions that were before that. So the motion the General Manager read out from October by the Council in February and endorsed by this Council in May. Now takes. So now I don't mind having these votes counted. Vitalisation of the CBD is important and have their names recorded as projects. Code of meeting practice as put out to the adopted by this council. You're completely wrong in your ruling.
I asked in preparation for tonight's meeting, I asked the General Manager to check exactly where that resolution stood in relation to the new code of meeting practice that we adopted at the last meeting. I've been advised by the GM that that resolution is standing and binding. You can recall the resolution was made outside of the previous code of meeting practice. It was a specific ruling put forward, a recommendation from the GM, which we adopted as a council outside of that current code of meeting practice. The advice that I'm advised by the GM is that resolution still remains irrespective of a changed code of meeting practice, and the only way it can be removed is by rescission and support of councillors to remove it. That's my understanding. Could you confirm that, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. That's correct. The council at that point in time resolved that they wanted the votes recorded. They did that by way of bona fide resolution. The code of conduct that was in force at that time was not amended, and it didn't include that clause. The code of conduct that council's currently adopted is the one mandated by the Office of Local Government. If council wants to review its decision in relation to voting, it can do so. It's just a matter of rescinding it's a matter that will be decided by council.
So Councillor Leslie has moved against my decision. I now need to put it to the vote. All those in...
Before you put it to the vote,
Yes.
I don't know if I'm out of order, but I'd like to ask...
from our-
independent advice from council.
So, are you asking me?
No, that was my advice. That was my advice to the Deputy Mayor. The Deputy Mayor indicated I gave him that advice, and I did.
Okay, those in favour of Councillor Leslie's objection to my ruling? It's 2. It's 3. Those in favour of the ruling of the Chair? 3. That's 3 each. I have a casting vote. Sorry, I'm in favour of it. I don't need a casting vote. 4-3. It stands. I'll now formally ask for the resolution of the previous minutes of the meeting. It was no, it's been moved. It's been moved.
It's been moved that there was an amendment by Councillor Leslie.
Yeah, and both amendments have been adopted, as I understand. The amendment being put by the
Question from me.
yeah, no, for a sec, so I clarify this. The minutes, as amended, have been adopted. Okay. And we have voted on it. Yes, question? Yep. Okay, so recorded. We're at part 5 of the order of business, and that's
Declaration of interest.
no. What about your late? The councillors would recall, well, would have received a late report. Because of the content of that late report, it needs to be discussed and put now. And I'm going to ask the General Manager to explain that late report. Every councillor received it, I take it. I see the heads nodding. Okay. iPad. Okay, I'll ask the General Manager, because of the importance of this late report, it needs to be dealt with now, because some of it leads to the statement that I had to give earlier in the meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The order of business, the paper before you, which is a late report, simply itemises the order of business that Council needs to work through. The order of business is unchanged from the previous order of business that was in the previous Code of Meeting Practice, save for one exception. Because we're webcasting now, and this is the first time, there needs to be a statement read out at the beginning of each meeting alerting everybody, councillors, employees and members of the public, that they are in fact on webcasting. It's being streamed as we speak, and that obviously they have to be warned about defamatory statements. So the only amendment to the order of business is the inclusion of that statement that we are webcasting and the warning or the alert given to members of the public. Council will note that you are able to amend the order of business at any time during the ordinary council meeting. So if at some stage you want to alter the order of business, you can do so at any meeting. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Questions or comment in relation to?
Are we dealing with this issue now?
Yes,
Can we
are.
have it up on this, Deputy Mayor, can we have it up on the screen? Is that
Yeah,
possible?
no, that's a good idea.
I can't find it on my iPad, I'm sorry.
It will need a mover and a seconder.
I'm happy to move it, but I've got a question about it.
So it's moved Councillor Ring,
I'll second that.
it's seconded Councillor Statham.
I have been asked by some members of the public if the closed session of council could be moved to the beginning or slightly earlier than what's before the meeting, so that there is an opportunity for members of the public, if they so desire, to talk to councillors after the meeting. For some, it might be the only opportunity to meet councillors. I'd just like some sort of report coming back from the administration on what the options are for dealing with closed council early, so at the end of the council meeting, the public can talk to council, or what other options are available to enhance the time.
Yep.
Well, look, I'm happy to move. Do we need to move it, or?
Look, I think that's a matter that would need a report. Simply this matter is asking for the moving and seconding and discussion in relation to the late report. Can I say one of the... Yeah. Can I... Yeah.
Only moving this to deal with it after the other. Is that all we're doing, or we're dealing with this issue now?
Well, no, we're only, as far as I'm concerned, we're only dealing with what's in front of you now. My understanding will be guided by the GM. If we're going to move closed council to another part of the agenda, it's something we would need to have a look at and see whether we can or we can't, and what the process is. Yeah.
And I'm asking you, would you like me to move a motion?
Wouldn't it
Well-
be in a foreshadowed motion, Councillor?
No,
Deputy
I-
Mayor?
Amendment, it could be an amendment.
Well, or a part 3 of the motion, I would have thought would have been simpler and easier. Yeah.
So,
So you're moving a part 3
that,
that council looks at a process of whether closed council can be moved somewhere else on the agenda.
yes.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Councillor Statham, as a seconder?
Deputy Mayor, Councillor McAndrew, I would like to also add that if we're going to do that, because we have a lot of people travel from outside the local government area to be here for public forum and also for notices of motion, I think we should move the notices of motion to the beginning of the meeting. So instead of somebody almost every meeting moving to bring a notice of motion forward in relation to people that are visiting our gallery and waiting to go back to Glen Ellis or out to Hampton or Rydal, I think now we should have our notices of motion back at the beginning of the meeting, as most councils do.
Would you be happy to add that to
I would be
Councillor
happy to add
Ring's
that
number
if
3 to
Councillor
be
Ring-
look at both of those? Because
Right.
you'd recall, Councillor Statham, that used to be the way, and for some reason it was moved.
That's correct.
Okay, and
Yes.
during the term of both you and I.
Yes.
I thought someone would have picked up on the point that one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing tonight is that the current or the new code of meeting practice does not have a public forum in it. And that's why the GM had to put forward this late report. And this enshrines the agenda or the business of council to be dealt with at each council meeting. So we've had both the mover and seconder with an added 3. Do I have any other speakers?
Yes, I'd like to move an amendment.
Yes.
For all those in attendance at this as for the rest of that statement, I find it until our citizens because our citizens are good people, they know that. And it's still applies. It's still there. You don't have to go to the shop or something. You don't tell the shopkeeper that actually here, the law of the land applies. You don't need to do it. It's probably every councillor from now to eternity that two and a half years here, I can't recall anyone actually. That this is wrong, that they shouldn't do it, and not needed, and it's insulting.
Just before I ask the General Manager to respond, I would have thought the statement protects us all. I haven't got a problem with it, and I think it makes it clear and protects all of us, whether we're sitting up here or we're sitting out there. But I'll ask the GM to make comment on it, because the wording has come from, as I understand, recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I've not worked for a council that doesn't have this sort of alert for members of the public. Upon joining this council, I'm aware that a number of councillors were involved in defamation actions in this council. I know that in the Ku-ring-gai Council at the moment, there's one councillor taking Supreme Court action against 4 other councillors, as advertised today. And really, it's mandatory. It's in the Code of Meeting Practice that you adopted last week, or last meeting. It says, quote, unquote, Clause 5.21, at the start of each meeting, the chairperson is to make a statement informing those in attendance that the meeting is being webcast and that those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. You cannot alter that because it's a mandatory requirement from the Office of Local Government. You've adopted it as a council.
I have issues as well.
No, you've had Councillor Coleman. Councillor Liz, you've had a fair bit so far. Councillor Coleman.
Just in regards to those coming into from the public forum, I have issues in regards to the form they have to fill out. It says addressing council, they have to fill in certain requirements, but I have an issue with point 7 of that form. It says, please tick one box, I am for supporting the recommendations, or I am against, oppose the recommendation. I don't think that's necessary. When the public speak, they are going to tell us what they want or what they think. And I quite like public forum. I think it's like a box of chocolates. You're not quite sure what you're going to get. But I think it's what we're here for. We're here to listen to the community, understand their needs and wants. And I feel as though that would deter a lot of our community members coming in and speaking at public forum, and I would like to see more speaking at public forum than less. I mean, personally, I think that's more of an intimidation tool, and I'm really uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Coleman, first and foremost, this form has been in place in this council for a number of years now. This is simply a reflection of the SWP for public address that's actually been in place for the last few years. It's the same form. The second is the reason that that's there, and I should add, if council so desires, we can remove it. There's no problems with that at all. But the reason it's there is to determine the number of people for a resolution and the number of people against a resolution in a public forum, because there might be occasions where you have so many people wanting to speak for and against that you actually work according to the Code of Meeting Practice and only have a certain number for and against. But if council so wants that to be deleted, we're happy to do it. It's just a matter of resolving. Yep.
Well, can I just sum up for a moment then, trying to deal with what you've put forward? We have, in the recommendation, we have 1, 2 and a further 3. Are you wanting a further 4th point, Councillor Coleman, in relation to the format of the letter? As I understand you're talking about not so much the issue of what's being proposed in relation to the public forum, but the format of the questioning of matters, I understand, that are not on the agenda. As you recall, any matters on the agenda, anyone can stand up at any time to speak about.
I think that's important to clarify. So let me just get my head around this. This has been in place prior to me being a councillor. So for those who are, and I wasn't aware of that, but I'm glad I am now. So let me get my head around this. This is for those who want to speak for something that's not actually on the agenda?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So those who speak on the agenda don't actually need this?
No. No.
Sorry,
that doesn't make sense. So I stick by what I'm saying is I think number 7, that section should be removed, because if that's for those who are not speaking on stuff that's on the agenda, then it's not actually needed, is it? Because they're not speaking on stuff that's on the agenda. It doesn't make sense. So if Councillor Ring is happy, I would like to include that section be removed from that form, because it doesn't actually make sense.
Well, it not only doesn't make sense, it's not right.
Well, it's not
Councillor Statham and myself know what the current public forum requirements are, and for items on the agenda, There is absolutely no need for notice, and anyone from the community can stand up at that microphone and ask questions or make comments on items of the agenda. It's only those items that are not on the agenda that require prior notice. I do see now, though, number 6, if I'm reading the right one.
So 6 and 7 don't be there.
6 should not be there, yes. I agree with you, 6 should not be there.
And neither should be 7.
Okay.
That form should stop at 5. But 6.6
She's
and
dead right.
0.7
Six
should be removed.
Yep. Okay. Well, can I ask you, Councillor
Can I
Coleman, to
formally
add it
move
as a part 4, if the mover and the seconder
Are you
agree
happy
with
with
it?
that, Councillor
that-
Ring and Councillor
Yeah.
Statham?
So I agree with you, because it doesn't make sense and it's not what we agreed.
Yeah.
So item 6 and item 7 to be removed from the addressing council, the addressing council letter as part of the standard working procedure, public forum in council meetings.
Yes, that'd
Yep.
be, if the mover
I think
and
we
the
understand
seconder
what
are
it
happy with
means,
that. Great, thank you.
and I thank you for that, and I thank you, Councillor Ring. I didn't look at that, but it's certainly not what we, the decision we took in relation to it. So is there any other speakers? We do have a recommendation, Councillor Statham.
Just to add to Councillor Coleman's and Councillor Ring saying that that should be deleted, I do agree. The only reason that we have that people coming on public forum to speak, we ask the people that when the item is not on the agenda to give notice to the
Yep.
staff, so
Yes.
they don't have to say to those people, if they've travelled from the outlying areas of our local government area, we have to take that on notice. So whereby if it's not an item on the agenda and they wish to speak, they're very welcome to come, but we did ask that they state what the subject was so that the staff could do some investigating, so when they arrived on that night and spoke, the staff had some answers for them. That is the reason that we asked people to put their name down if in the event that the item they wish to speak about was not on the agenda.
You're absolutely right.
Sorry, if I may. I understand that, Councillor Statham, but it just seems to be a little bit unfair. Those who are coming to council, and the item's not on the agenda, they have to put down why, and then those with the item on the agenda just get up and speak. It's too much inconsistency. I think I stick by what I say. I think items 6 and 7 should be removed.
Well, if this gets up, it's exactly what will happen, and I think that satisfies everyone then. So we do have now, if there's no other further speakers for or against, we do have a resolution now in 4 parts, number 1 and number 2 as written, and the addition of 3 in relation to a report looking at moving around parts of the agenda.
Confidential and noms.
Noms and confidential, yes. And the added one, rightfully removing something from the policy that really doesn't make sense anyway. So we have a mover.
And of course you have an amendment moved by me.
Okay, can you just put that amendment again? Thanks. Councillor.
All words after webcast be deleted in the chairman's statement.
That's contrary to the code of conduct.
Yeah.
Code of conduct.
Well, I've got to rule it out of order, the amendment, because I think the General Manager just rightfully told us we've adopted that, as you were quite adamant about in the previous discussion, Councillor Leslie. We adopted the Code of Meeting Practice, which effectively puts in place what's being written.
That's fine, Mr Deputy Mayor, but you didn't do it.
Well, I thought I did, but anyway, we have the amendments out of order. I've ruled it out of order, and we now have the motion in 4 parts. We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour, raise your hands. Those against, I declare it carried unanimously. We're up to now declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Commemorations and announcements. I do have one, if I may. Sadly, I want to acknowledge the recent sad passing of Margaret Buckley. She was an active and dedicated community volunteer, a member of many organisations, Quota, Red Cross, Ken Assist, Lithgow Family History, just to name a few. And I'd like to extend sincere condolences to her family and friends.
Yes, Mr Deputy Mayor. Mr Leslie Senior, 94 years old, celebrated 70 years of marriage recently and has been an icon in Lithgow for all of the time that I've known him, of him and his wife, who's still alive. Very tragic. And Mrs Frida Higlett, ex-councillor Ross Higlett's mum, who has also been a great lady in our community and done lots of charity work. So all of these people are going to be greatly missed.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Any others?
Can we just confirm who that last one was from Councillor Statham?
Oh, could you just Statham, the last one? The GM didn't catch the name.
Mrs Frida Higlett.
Frida Giblett. Yep, Frida Giblett. Next item is the public forum. We do have a request from Mr Robert Green in relation to the Palmazoki Upper Turon Land Care. Mr Green.
Good evening, councillors. I represent the Upper Turon Palmazoki Land Care Group. We're some 30 people. Our oldest members are in their 80s, our youngest are 12 and 13. And our concern is the road that is going through the Gulf that is going to bring forth a whole lot more four-wheel drivers. We spend a lot of time down on the river removing weeds, removing rubbish. After last long weekend, we removed 2 ute loads of rubbish from the area, including a 3-seater lounge that was left down there. It's become like a hoon spot where there was like 50 campers down there. In the river, we've got the 2 most iconic monotrines that we've got in the country, platypus and the echidnas. I've seen along the river there that turtles have been crushed by a four-wheel drive driving down the centre of the river. We spend a lot of time filling in holes that people have dug and left there where they've been digging up for gold. And we'd like the council to possibly do something. I know the road's going through, it's, you know, that's going to happen, but can we do something to protect that area for the future? What are we going to tell our children and our grandchildren if we didn't do something to actually protect that area? All of the understory, there is no habitat left because people have just burnt as much as they could possibly burn. We've got blue heliotrope has turned up in there now. We've also got Cinerea, a weed which there is no known chemical to kill it. We have to pull it out by hand, and there's tons of it. Also, there's the appearance of tiger pear, which could have only been brought in by four-wheel drivers. You've got some really nice Aboriginal artworks on the wall and the flag, and we pay homage to that. It would be nice if, as a council, we could stand up and pay homage to the environment with which is so dear and near to the Aboriginal people. Please, I'm begging you, can we do something? Thank you very much.
The other people wishing to speak? Yes, Mr Ticehurst.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Councillors. In regards to 8.1, in regards to the proposed road naming of QE Park Lane, Lithgow to Blanchard Lane, Lithgow, I commend the recommendation to councillors, but could I also suggest to councillors that they may wish to add a point 3, and that point 3 is to, now is the time to take action to rename the lane which adjoins the eastern side of Queen Elizabeth Park and Club Lithgow off Lithgow Street, which is also known as QE Park Lane. This can't be named QE Park Lane because it doesn't comply with the QE doesn't comply with a name. So it might be an opportune time to also rename that length of laneway as well, so rather than wait for some other opportunity in the future. As to what you name it, would be on exhibition, I would imagine, anyway.
Thanks, Councillor Tysus. We'll be soon discussing that, so if someone wants to pick that, councillor wants to pick that up, then that's open to them. Any other people, persons wanting to speak at public forum? If not, we'll move into the committee reports. GM?
This be Andy.
8.1. Okay, 8.11.
I'm happy to move that with Mr Tysus's recommendation. Did the staff write that down?
I'll second that.
Seconded, Councillor
Councillor
Statham.
Statham.
Would you have that, Mr Tysus, would you have that written there?
The point 3 should be that council rename and then just use that paragraph on the bottom there, on the bottom of page 4 of 45. The lane which adjoins the eastern side of Queen Elizabeth Park and Club Lithgow, off Lithgow Street. And that little, council take action to rename, and the whole description is on that.
On the bottom of 4 of 45. The last officer's comments you're touching on?
Yeah, that's it, halfway through that.
Halfway through that. I just need to take some advice, Councillor Coleman, for a moment. There's a bit of discussion up here. So the problem. Yes, Mr Edgecombe?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we may need to check whether that lane is a public road and available to be named, but we can provide that advice through to council as soon as possible.
So it is possible then to put that number 3 and then you'll just come back to us anyway?
We'll advise accordingly, yes.
Yeah, okay.
No, we do need to add that. The staff was just telling me they thought recommendation 1 covers it, but it doesn't. So we're adding, if I've got it right, further the lane which adjoins the eastern side of Queen Elizabeth Park and Club Lithgow off Lithgow Street. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Is also locally known as Cooey Park Lane, so it would be advantageous to rename the lane. But if you're wanting to add that as a 3, we'll of course need staff to have a look at that and see if that's doable.
Well, that's my understanding of what
Yeah, the
Mr
officer's
Edgecombe
comments.
said, that he would come back on anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm happy.
Councillor Statham, you happy with that addition?
I'm actually happy for it
Yep.
for the name to be QE Park Lane. It's never been gazetted, and it's when the Queen came out to Lithgow, so I think we need to have her name somewhere that reflects that park.
Okay, well that is different to the mover.
Well,
I
it's
think the
different
movers.
to the I'm
Yeah,
moving the-
hang on, councillors. I've got people talking everywhere here at the moment. Just hold, GM.
Mayor, councillors, Mr Tysus, if I could just suggest, council investigate the renaming of the eastern side of Queen Elizabeth Park and Club Lithgow off Lithgow Street.
Yeah, okay.
I did suggest to you that QE Park, because the 2 letters QE can't be a name, it must be Queen Elizabeth.
With respect, Mr Tysus, it's up to councillors to decide that with the support of staff.
I do agree with that.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr Muir.
not wanting to be a party pooper, but Mr Edgecombe has just checked on his GIS system and that particular piece of road is not a public road, so...
Oh, okay. So we don't have any jurisdiction over it anyway. So unfortunately, we'll have to move the recommendation as it is. Okay. Well, I only have a question. I mean, happy to move the recommendation as it is. It's disappointing that we can't move point 3 because I would have been happy to help Mr Tysus with that. But unfortunately, if it's not a public road, we can't do that. Is that the information I'm getting, Mr Edgecombe? Okay. I just have a question. Well, anyway, coming back to me, because I'm moving it. Why Blanchard Lane? Like, is there a reason for that, and who chose the name?
We dealt with that at a number of meetings ago.
Yeah,
I think
know
you
that,
may
but
have
Can you
been.
just remind me? Is that
William Senior Blanchard was very well known in the community, done a lot for the community, and I think lived in proximity of here. And that decision is 12th of December. It was raised in 2012, and the meeting in March of this year, I think we endorsed it was going out for public comment, and it came back and it was supported. Yep. Okay. All right. Any other speakers before I put the motion? So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried and unanimously. What, on this? Okay. Item 8.12, proposed new policy, alternate fuel rebates. Do I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Goodsall, seconder Councillor Ring. Before I open up for debate, Mr Muir has indicated he wants to speak on it.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. It was just in relation, I just picked it up actually this evening when I was just double checking something. The form proposed in the attachment on, it's actually the attachment number 1 of the form says address where the coal heater will be replaced, and it says location of heater, and after that it says in brackets the coal heater being replaced must be located in a property within the village areas of Lithgow, Portland, Wallerawang, Lidsdale and Rydal. I just want to make it clear, we actually want to delete that particular area in brackets, because one of the reasons that we're putting up this policy is to slightly expand this rebate program, and at the moment it's not terribly clear, so the version which we intend to put at exhibition will not have that paragraph in brackets on it.
I just got a question. In the attachment number 6 under removal, in the policy it states that the coal burning appliance must be removed and deposited at the Lithgow solid waste facility for metal recycling and council provided with the receipt of disposal. Is this a condition that the residents get a rebate? Is this part of the condition that they have to deposit it there to get some sort of rebate back?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just following that, if I get through you, Councillor McAndrew, to Mr Muir, just to clarify it a bit further, if an owner wanted to sell that heater to, say, Cook's Metal, is that precluded from this policy?
Currently, the way the practice has been and how the policy is written, I do believe that would be precluded. We are seeking the evidence that the said offending article has been destroyed. However, if council wanted to add something into that effect and there was a surety that the said heater was rendered not usable, then that certainly could be considered, yes.
I'll second that.
The staff have got that, I think. I sent that into them.
Can we have that up?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
Mr Mayor, if I could just clarify, so that replaces the second paragraph under point 6 removal.
Yep, that's correct. There's still an onus on the owner to provide proof, but it provides them with options on how to dispose of it.
So, I'll take the explanation from Mr Muir first and then work out where we're at.
Only a suggestion, Mr Deputy Mayor. My suggestion would be that that paragraph stay, but there be a second sentence after that that says alternatively. and that includes what you're asking.
I have no problem
Yep.
with that. I can live with that.
Can I speak again?
Can I just clarify something first, Councillor Leslie? So, Councillor Goodsall is a mover. Do I take it now? And number one on the basis that it's amended as agreed tonight, but we'll hear other arguments before that. But does that satisfy you? Councillor Goodsall? Yeah, Councillor Ring? Yep. Okay, Councillor Leslie?
I'd like to speak against that amendment.
Yeah.
Is it an amendment?
No, it's a motion. It's a motion.
In that case, I'll move. And this is the problem about amendments sometimes, isn't it? You don't get an opportunity to speak on it.
I have questions now.
So, no, hang on, I understand. You've got the right, whether we like it or not. The amendments are part of the meeting procedure. I've had my problems with them over the years as well. But it is part of, and not just our council, all council, that's that process. You've got the right to move the amendment. I understand that your amendment is the current recommendation is it stands, remains.
Exactly, yes.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for the amendment?
Happy to second that because I'm confused by the other amendment, and I want some questions answered.
Okay, it's seconded. Yes, Councillor Leslie, speak to it.
Speaking to it, we have to get rid of these old-fashioned boilers and old-fashioned donkeys and old-fashioned sort of.
I just have some questions in regards to what Councillor Ring has proposed. What's the purpose of the amendment? If that's okay through you, Mayor, through Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Ring, what's the purpose of the? I like to understand what it is that you're trying to achieve.
The purpose of the amendment is just to provide individuals with choice. Council's monopolising this and saying, we'll provide you with a rebate. Now, I'm not sure if that's our money or if it's state money. State or ours?
No, it's
ours. And if it's $5 or $10, we have pensioners with boilers, older people, and if an extra $5 or $10 helps them, I mean, it's no skin off our nose. And if it means that the installer is happy to take it, the cookies, get $5 or $10 for it, then it saves that person then having to try and find someone else to get it and take it there. It just provides people with options, and I think that the community does deserve to have options. It doesn't stop these going, and I agree with Councillor Leslie, the coal burning appliances need to go. But let's give the community some options. That's all.
Councillor Coleman?
It does, but I have another question, if I may. This is going on public expedition for a period of 28 days anyway. So irrelevant of what motion gets up tonight, this is going on public expo. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the public can then put in what they think as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So any speakers for or against the amendment? If not, I'll put the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment, raise your hands. Those against? Declare the amendment defeated. We're now back to the original motion. Is there any other discussion on the motion before it's put? The right of reply, Councillor Goodsall.
Not too much more on that. It just, like Councillor Ring said, it gives the community, it states very clearly that the coal burning appliance must be removed and deposited at the Lithgow solid waste facility for metal recycling. And it probably should say on there if they want to be entitled to a rebate. It doesn't say that. I just wanted to clarify that. And also, it doesn't matter where they hand it in. If they've got a receipt for a cap from anywhere, they get a rebate.
Okay, I think that's pretty clear. All those in favour? Those against? Those in favour, Councillor Goodwin, Statham, Councillor Ring, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Goodsall, Councillor McAndrew. Those against, Councillor Leslie. Piper Power Station, Mod 8 water storage pond.
I'll move that.
Mover.
Happy to second.
Seconded, moved Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor Coleman. Councillor Statham.
This is a major project modification, and I think its recommendation is just to be noted. I think it's very clear, and I'm sure all the councillors have read the information. Certainly recommend the recommendation.
You give me a water, mate. Okay, Councillor Coleman.
As Councillor Statham said, this is only to be noted. My understanding is Department of Planning and Environment will have the final say. Is that correct? Can someone
Yes,
answer
that's
that?
correct.
Thanks.
Any other speakers for or against? If not, it's been moved, it's been seconded. Those in favour? Those against? Declared it carried, I think. Councillor Leslie? You in favour? You in favour or against? Have you in favour or against the motion?
I didn't vote.
Okay, in that case, the vote for Councillor Leslie is against. Report 8.2, Infrastructure Services Policy Review. It's been moved, Councillor Ring. I have a seconder. Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Ring.
Policies are straightforward. I have no problem with them. I just have one question in relation to policy 10.7, public gates and grid signs, local roads. Do we currently have a register of current gates and roads? Do we maintain that within the council administration?
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Yes.
We don't currently have a register, but we're in the process of formulating that register through regular asset inspections.
If I may then ask another question to you, Councillor McAndrew, of the administration. How many grates and grates and gates are out there at the moment? Do we know? Do we have any idea? Is there a record?
I would need to take that on notice and provide information.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes,
Councillor
Mr
Statham.
Mayor, 10.6, curb and gutter construction. I just, through you, Mr Mayor, perhaps to Mr Mr Muir, in terms of subdivisions that's already started, could you please inform me as to whether or not, if this recommendation goes through tonight, whether or not that will start commencing as of now with the new arrangements that are written in 10.6, or whether or not the previous subdivisions that have already had a DA successful, are they not going to incur the same? When will this start and when will this commence?
The policy doesn't refer to new developments. New developments are expected to put their own curb returns in as part of the installation of curb and gutter during the subdivision construction process. This is for dwellings and residential properties that don't have curb returns. Council can assist with the creation of it because it is council's infrastructure, but for one curb return only per property where one doesn't exist.
Are there questions or comments before I put it? Does the mover wish to write a reply? Okay, all those in favour, raise your hands. Those against? Councillor Leslie?
I don't wish to comment on this one.
Okay, it's Councillor Goodwin, Statham, Ring, Coleman, Goodsall in favour of the motion. Councillor Leslie opposed. 8.3.
I'm happy to move that, Deputy Mayor, but I have a
Okay.
question.
That's been moved by Councillor Coleman. Do I have a seconder? Have a seconder? Yes, Councillor Ring. Councillor Coleman.
Just in the commentary on page 11, it states here that Oakey Park Water Treatment Plant has been temporarily shut down. The shutdown commenced Tuesday the 7th of May. Due to a water break at Dockbramoy, Council was required to feed the villagers from the 17th of May until the 27th, until repair could be undertaken. How long before it's repaired? Is it repaired? Where are we at, Mr Buckins, on that?
Mr Buckins.
Through you, Mr Mayor, that repair has occurred. That transfer was changed back. As of today, Dockbramoy is shut down for a period whilst they undertake some maintenance. So now we are currently feeding the villagers from Oakey Park.
Quite positive, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Or if not, you don't need to write a reply, Councillor Coleman. Okay. All those in favour of the item, raise your hands. Those against? Looks like Councillor Goodwin, Statham, Ring, Coleman, Goodsall in favour. Councillor Leslie against. 8.4.1.
Happy to move with a minor amendment.
Councillor Ring, seconder. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goodwin? Councillor Ring.
In terms of the amendment, I'd like to delete the second sentence of recommendation 2. That is, the residential water usage tiers will return to tier 1 being 0 to 250 kilolitres and tier 2 from 50 plus from 1st of July 2020. The reason I am asking the council to delete that is that on page 13 to 14 of the report, it states that the water tiers were reviewed as part of the 2021 operational plan. And I believe at that time we should also review into prices. So that sentence in those recommendations is redundant. I also have a question, Councillor McAndrew, through you to the administration, if I may. When we had the water survey done, it was 30 to 35% of our water is unaccounted for. This report says this should find 10%. What about the other 20 to 25%? I know we put meters on all council buildings, but where is the other 20 to 25% doing that?
Well, can I just clarify? So one's right, two's right, except for after operational plan, the residential water usage tiers would return to tier 1 being 0 to 250 and tier 2 from that to be removed. And recommendation 3 remains the same. And you've got a question, Mr Buckins?
Through you, Mr Mayor, 10% is a very conservative figure. I think we can achieve something far greater than that. But it also needs to be noted that 10% loss is an industry standard amount of loss through any network. So to get any lower than 10% is very unlikely.
So Councillor Goodwin is a seconder. Any comments? Any comments, questions from other councillors? Councillor Statham?
I am concerned the residential water usage tiers will be returning to tier 1 from the 1st of July 2020.
That's been removed if this gets up.
Okay, well, I agree with that. At the moment, I'm quite concerned, and residents are quite concerned as to whether they will be formally notified. Otherwise, they'll be tending to use the amount of water that's been reallocated to them. They will get used to using the extra water and not being charged. So I would like to see all ratepayers and residents in some way, whether it's in their rate notices or somehow, be totally informed of when that's going to change, so that we don't get a lot of complaints from people using the water that still think that they can use what they're going to get in the very near future.
Well, as I understand that will occur, Councillor Ring has rightfully pointed out that we review, correct me if I'm wrong, we review our water rates every 12 months as part of the operational plan. So I think, and that has a process of making sure that consultation goes out to all of our residents. So there will be ample time, as I understand, Councillor Statham, for views one way or the other by residents.
But my understanding was very clear in the draft project, like the draft budget that we're doing now, there'll be no increase in water rates. So why is there to be discussion on it?
Well, as I understand what's been proposed by staff, that there's a win-win at this stage for residents on residential as a result of the smart water metering. We've given the buffer now from 1 to 2 is longer, so they won't be going into the second tier now. I think the old tier was 250 to, I can't recall, 250 to I'm going to get Ross to answer it, Councillor.
Through you, Mr Mayor. What we had proposed in the operational plan was no change to the water usage charges, that is the $3.25 a kilolitre and $4.85 a kilolitre. So this is simply to increase the tier 1. Yeah.
Point of order, Deputy Mayor. Do we have a seconder on this motion?
Councillor Goodwin.
Okay, it's just not on the screen.
I advise that the seconder was Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, councillors, we're just suffering a technical glitch. Oh, it's there now.
It's there now. I see your point. I advised that earlier. So has that question been answered? Councillor Coleman and Councillor Statham? Yep. Okay, any other comment or on questions or points of view for or against? Right or reply, Councillor Ring.
I'd just like to say that depending on how much water this finds, say if it's 10%, say it's 20%, I don't want to see the community paying increased water bills in the future. It may be possible that we do go back to the previous tiers, but we may go back at a lower rate. We'll get the same amount of money. We're not going to lose money, but we may be able to actually reduce our water rates, which are some of the highest in the Central West.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Those in favour, raise your hands. Those against, none. I declare it carried and unanimously. Item 8.4.2, tender delegations
I'll move
report.
that, thank you.
Happy to second that.
Moved Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor Coleman. Councillor Statham.
Staff, this has been many years in the making, and I'm absolutely delighted that the General Manager has sourced the tenderer or chosen the tenderer, and I wish them all the best. It's something that's very much needed.
Councillor Coleman.
I would concur with Councillor Statham in her sentiments. I do have a question. So now what's the process? The tender has been approved here and now. Where do we go from there? Like, when does construction start? When do we see it actually being used by the community of Lithgow?
Michael.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Deputy
Or Mr McGrath.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Yeah, look, recently I think I sent out a communication to councillors in the form of a memo, I think, I recall. We're looking at construction commencing in July and completion in September.
Okay, we have a Councillor Ring. Yep.
This tender is for Wallerawang. Will there be a separate tender process for the Portland Skate Park, or has there been an option within the tendering process to allow the company to do the additional works, given they're the same plan?
Mr. McGrath.
Yeah, through you, Mr Deputy Mayor. My understanding, Councillor Ring, is that it will be separate because of the lengthy delay. Yeah.
Okay.
But, sorry, but the same companies may apply again. As you're right, it is the same template, the same footprint.
Councillor Statham, right of reply? No, that's fine. Well, it's been moved, it's been seconded. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried unanimously. Item 8.4.3, cost of ALGWA activities.
Happy to move.
Been moved, Councillor Coleman. Seconded, Councillor Ring. Councillor Coleman.
I might have a point 3 depending on Councillor Ring and depending on my questions once they're answered. I note that...
Might get a point 2 as well.
So,
Yeah, I note that. I've just
yeah,
changed it to point 2.
yeah.
There's 2
1
1s.
and 2
so
and a 3. Yeah.
it'll
Typo.
be changed.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Is this in relation to Councillor Coleman's presidential thing in relation to her ALGWA? Is this a conflict of interest?
That's a good question. I didn't even think of that. So perhaps...
I noted to Councillor Goodwin that I thought it would be a conflict of interest, nothing against Councillor Coleman, but you certainly couldn't stand here and vote yourself.
Why, mate?
If that's the case, then I'll leave the room.
No, you don't have to leave the room. A point of order's been moved, and I just want a bit of clarification. And the thrust of the point of order is in relation to conflict of interest. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. The only person that can determine whether or not a conflict of interest or a pecuniary conflict of interest occurs is the person concerned. It's outside the mandate of any individual councillor, administration employee or the Deputy Mayor.
On that basis, Councillor Goodwin, I have to refuse it. Councillor Coleman.
In saying that, I will withdraw my moving of it anyway, just for, safe to be sorry, as they always say. So I will not move this and leave it for the councillors.
So it's now been moved by Councillor Ring, seconded by Councillor Goodsall. Okay, so we've got a different mover and a different seconder. Can I just wait till that's changed, please? Move Councillor Ring, second Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Ring.
I think it's good that Councillor Coleman has actually got the position. She's out there representing this community with flying style. I think it's really, if people in the public want to question it, they can directly speak to Councillor Coleman about the benefits or otherwise. But I think it is a bit of kudos to this council. It gets us out there. And I'm sure she'll bring back information to the benefit of the community and council.
Councillor Goodsall. Any other? Councillor Leslie.
Councillor Coleman's got no fear on this matter. In the matter disgrace, because she got the position solely as a councillor. She couldn't get it if she wasn't a councillor. It's the same, exactly the same as being going to the local government conference in Canberra last week. It's got no issue there. She has no need to worry. But we have come a long way in this matter. I refer back to the Finance Committee meeting of the 8th of April, where the recommendation of the General Manager about this ALGWA thing was, 1, no councillor delegates be funded by the council to attend the 2019 ALGWA National Conference, as the 2018-19 Council of Professional Development, Travel and Accommodation votes have been fully expended. So that, of course, was not carried at the Finance Committee. But that was the recommendation of the General Manager, and how far we've moved. How well it is that we now actually support Councillor Coleman in her position there, so that she can represent Lithgow and she can sort of represent women more generally. I think it's a wonderful thing, and I support this motion.
Okay. Any other speakers for or against the motion? If not, I intend to put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? I declare it carried unanimously. Item 8.44, Investment Report May 2019. Do I have a mover?
Happy to move.
Councillor Coleman, seconder. Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Coleman. Councillor Goodwin. Anybody else wish to speak on the item? If not, it's been moved and seconded. Those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried unanimously. Item 8.4.5, write-off inventory. Do I have a mover?
I'll move.
Councillor Statham, a seconder. Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Statham.
Well, I think we need to again congratulate council staff conducting an end-of-year stocktake. The unfortunate result was, as it stated, I won't go through that, people can see what the result was, but I think now you're going to have improved store management procedures, and I think that's wonderful. I think it's very transparent and open and honest, and I congratulate the Chief Financial Officer for this information.
Thank you. Councillor Goodsall. Any other comments for or against before I put the motion? Any right of reply, Councillor Statham? No. All those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried. Councillor Leslie, you're in favour?
I'm happy to abide by the code of meeting practice, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
So that's a vote against or failure to vote. So that means the vote for the resolution is Councillor Goodwin, Councillor Statham, Councillor Ring, Councillor Coleman, Councillor Goodsall, Councillor McAndrew, and against Councillor Leslie. I declare it carried. Item 8.5. It's been moved by Councillor Ring.
Happy to second, but I have
Seconded
some
by-
concerns.
Seconded by Councillor Coleman. Councillor Ring. What are those again? I didn't catch that, Councillor Ring.
Relates to recommendation 6.
Recommendation 6.
Item 8 and item 9. Item 8 is that the administration prepare a business case which costings for work to the intersection of Thompson Street and Railway Avenue, or Railway Parade, sorry, and that the business case assess the benefit of closing the intersection. That the project is considered in the 2021 draft operational plan. Item 9, that both the cementing of the garden beds at Walgan Street, Portland, estimated cost $15,000, and drainage works to the Portland Golf Club, estimated $5,000, are placed on a reserve list for 2019-20 and are funded from savings and capital works projects.
Is the seconder in agreement with that?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it at this stage.
At this stage?
In terms of Railway Parade, I live in Rousel Street, 1 street back, and people here, particularly in the morning and late in the afternoon, use it as a bit of a racetrack going to work. They cut down from Thompson Street to Railway Parade. They come through Frankfurt Road, onto Boulder Road, going straight to the giveaway side. I've nearly been collected there on a number of occasions over the years. It's an accident waiting to happen. At one stage, council did work where they put in cement barriers on Frankfurt Road, and they were later removed, even though locals wanted them to stay. I think we need to look at the whole issue. The front of Railway Parade, there are only 3 residents that actually have physical access to vehicles. Pretty much everyone on that street has access from the rear of the property, postage from the rear, emergency services, all from the rear below. In terms of the works in Walton Street and at the golf club, I've got no problem with those happening, but I don't want to see projects cut for those to happen. If we can make savings during the next 12 months, and I'm sure there will be, those savings can then be applied. Everything else I feel fine.
I would totally agree in regards to Frankfurt Road, Railway Street and Boulder Road. I live on Boulder Road, so I've experienced that myself, and so does my husband, so do my children. It is becoming like a racetrack. It's quite dangerous, and one of those school kids that getting off the bus there are going to be collected. So I concur with those statements, Councillor Ring, and you have my support. I got an email from Mr Kearns in regards to a submission that he felt that he had put in but has been missed. So I just want to bring it to your attention. Shield Lane between Walgan and Cullen Streets, it's an issue. It's, you know, being in a commercial area, it's used quite a lot, and pedestrian traffic viewing and the signs of yesteryear have issues. He's raised it at a community meeting for operational plan about 2 years ago, and we're told was in the budget then. He did put a submission in, but it's not in the documents that I have in front of me. So can I get a response regarding that?
Yeah.
And hang on, Deputy Mayor. Walking track from Long Street to Railway Avenue badly needs upgrading for safety reasons, if nothing else. Urgent need to do renewal works in the Catholic No. 1 portion of Portland Cemetery, such as rabbit infantation and weeds. So can I just get a response in regards to those issues and where they're at?
Okay, Mr. Edgecombe.
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Those Mr Kearns' responses were received by Council. The responses to those requests are in the report under the section that's titled Developing Our Built Environment Community Submissions. So I have provided comments. Some of those I've recommended definitely be included for consideration in the draft operational plan next financial year, but obviously at Council's discretion they can adopt to bring those into this year, subject to a shuffle of funds.
Thank you.
Just before you do, Councillor Statham, if I can just, from the mover and seconder, so there's 2 extra items, 8 and 9. There's none from you, Councillor Coleman.
I'm happy with that, that's fine.
Okay. So my reading in relation to the intersection of Thompson Street, that the earliest that can be dealt with now will be July 20. Over 12 months away.
Yeah.
Yeah, earliest that can be dealt with. That's the intention of the motion you're moving?
The motion I'm moving,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm simply asking the question that the earliest it can be dealt with. Yep.
that's the motion I'm
Yeah.
moving because
Yep. Okay. I just want to be clear that's the earliest it can be dealt with. Councillor Statham?
Yes, Councillor Ring has suggested to carry over the Portland Main Street revitalisation with the garden situation there. Look, no offence to staff, it's the way the water runs. I've showed Jonathan and the GM a video of what happens when there is a storm in the area. This is our main street of one of our main villages in our local government area. It is a growing area. I have a conflict of interest. I don't live in Portland, I live on the outskirts. This is disgusting. I'm sorry, I've never ever, I back up council staff as much as I can, but I walked down that street 3 times over the last week and I'm embarrassed. And it's cleaned up a bit because there's been no rain. But I think, can I please request through you, Mr Mayor, to the GM and to Mr Edgecombe, is there any way by the next council meeting to provide us with a short list of perhaps considered, because you're the experts in this field, of something we may be able to take out. This is only $15,000 and it can refurbish all that Main Street of Portland. This is a growing tourist attraction. It is, even if big pot plants, there were wonderful pot plants down at the storage depot, major, very, very big pot plants, even if those beds are ripped out, concreted, and the pots put there. I'm sure the store owners would look after those pots. We don't need any ongoing maintenance. So I urge the General Manager and Mr Edgecombe to look into those wonderful big pots and see, I've got some great ideas, I'm happy to do it free, to do something to beautify that town. In relation to...
just so before you do, Councillor Statham, you go to page 45.
Yes.
The 3rd paragraph down.
Yes.
It is being recommended
Yes.
that we consider that the Portland garden beds go into this year capital works program.
Is that correct?
What Councillor Ring has proposed, that it moves to the, well, I'm not sure what he's proposing, but it's certainly in page 25. So if you want to move an amendment to keep that as is, then you're certainly entitled to do so.
I thought councillors had to try and remove something to that for that $15,000 to be incorporated in this year's budget. Well, that's what I'm saying. I want the council staff, if it's at all possible, to provide $15,000 from something that they recommend is not as important, so that this project can go ahead as soon as possible.
So, sorry, can I just ask a question then? Is Councillor Statham then doing a foreshadowed motion in regards to that?
No, she's entitled to put forward an amendment. If I understand what you're asking for, Councillor Statham, is exactly what's being proposed on page 25 of 45, and I read, the May 2019 Operations Committee meeting recommended that Council consider the Portland Garden Beds Improvement Project,
Yes.
estimated cost $30,000 or $15,000
Yes.
for concreting works only.
Yes.
The project would need to be funded by the removal of project from the draft 2019-20 Capital Works program.
That's correct.
Yeah, but as I understand, you're asking, if I've got it right, you're asking staff to do exactly that, to look at other projects to fund this.
I will either delete another project that may not
Yep.
be as significant. It's not a huge amount of money, and I'm quite sure that General Manager Mr Edgecombe would
Well,
agree with that.
I think that's saying what you want, but you'll need to move an amendment because Councillor Ring, in his notion, seconded by Councillor Coleman, has removed it. Well, I'm trying to understand what it. That both the cementing of the garden beds in Walden Street, Portland, estimate cost $15,000, drainage work to the Portland Golf Club are placed on a reserve list, so they're pushed back
That's
on a
right.
reserve list and are funded from savings and capital works projects.
Well, I don't think it should be placed on a reserve list. I think
Yep,
it's an insult
I
to
agree with
Portland.
you. I agree
Total
with you.
insult to Portland.
But you will need an amendment to.
Well, I'll certainly
to
move
change
an
it.
amendment that the Portland Parks and Gardens in Main Street be put into the come-in budget, the 1920 budget, as a matter of priority and a matter of urgency.
And I'm happy to second. Well,
Thank
no,
you, Councillor
Leslie has seconded it. Yes.
Thank you.
Point of order, for it to be a legitimate motion, the councillor will have to state what project will have to be removed.
Well, no, that's not what the recommendation by staff is saying. They will look. She's asking for staff to look at what may be no different, I suppose, to what you propose in your motion that funded from saving the capital works progress. So, in a way, she's asking for the same thing. Yes, Councillor Statham, continue.
Right, maybe this is an unpleasant duty to perform tonight, but it's something I've been asked to do. On page, it's been moved around so many times tonight, page 31 of 45,
Yep.
I'm speaking on behalf of Mrs Marie Curran, who was unable to be here today. Her and her husband are travelling in Queensland. Marie has several issues with the proposed fees and charges in the upcoming budget regarding the swimming lessons she conducts at the heated pool at Lithgow. Marie is extremely upset. Her private financial business details have been placed on tonight's council agenda. These figures, Marie stresses, are untrue, fabricated and totally inaccurate, to say the least. Marie coaches many of her family members, people with disabilities and other relatives free of charge. The figures apparently do not allow for insurance, complimentary lessons and admin fees, admin time, I beg your pardon. So she's quite distraught that that information that's so private now be put out to the public. As council is also running swimming lessons for profit, could this be a restrictive trade practice issue? I believe it could be. I've looked it up, and Marie doesn't know that I've mentioned this tonight, but I'm terribly concerned for her as a person of great respect in our area and a highly regarded swimming coach, that maybe she's not quite getting a fair go. I don't know. The current proposal suggests a 10% increase. Well, the current CPI is only 1.8. I've looked that up tonight. So I don't know how. And I want a good outcome for council here, as well as a good outcome for the ratepayer and the business owner. But I don't know how we can possibly ask her to pay 10% increase. And also, the other thing that I find quite unattractive in this proposal that's here tonight is very simple. The council are running swimming lessons. Their carers and parents of the students learning to swim are not getting charged to go into the pool. But now you want to charge Mrs Curran 10% extra with a CPI of 1.8, and you want to charge the children that are doing her lessons, you want to charge the carers and parents the fee to get into the pool. I mean, come on, we're in Lithgow. We need to look after those people so they don't go back to Bathurst and back to Katoomba. I just feel that, you know, the entrance cost to parents is a significant increase then with the 10% on the swimming charge. You know, she says she fills out the entry books every week. She does all the right things. She's a notable coach in our area, I think possibly the best there is. And I think it's such a shame that we could be discriminating, perhaps discriminating, I'll correct myself, in, you know, she is the face of swimming. Marie Curran is the face of swimming, or Marie, I don't even know her surname, Evans. So, you know, I think she's held in high regard and an excellent local teacher. Marie's just requesting a fair go, and as a business person and a local identity, I think we need to review that, and I totally disagree with the 10% increase when the CPI is 1.8, and I totally disagree that we can charge, that we're now going to ask her to charge for the children that she teaches, carers and parents to go into the pool when council classes are not charging parents and carers. I just think we need to give her a fair go, and I don't quite think this is a fair go.
Can I just then try and... You've moved the issue about Thompson Creek. It's been seconded by Councillor Leslie as the amendment. Councillor Leslie, you happy to second that second issue raised by Councillor Statham? The swimming one? Yep.
No, just as I think at this stage, Councillor Statham has only moved the first bit, which I'm perfectly happy to second. And
I'm moving that we do this. I'm moving that the charges that are applying, as in the page 31, definitely go back, or not, doesn't necessarily have to go back to what she was paying. She needs to pay an increase. Totally agree she needs to pay an increase. That's what we all have to do. But I'm proposing that the increase not be 10%. Okay. And the increase certainly, if council swimming lessons are going to charge the carers of the students that go to the council teachers, entrance to the pool, that's fine.
Yeah, look, you've put your argument pretty succinctly, and just before Councillor Leslie, if I may, there is, unless the mover and seconder wish to accept what's being proposed by Councillor Statham in relation to the learn to swim costs, then it will require you to have an amendment, Councillor Statham. Yes, Councillor Ring?
I'd like clarification. If you read 7D of the recommendation, it says the wording for entry fee, commercial learn to swim participant, is updated with the addition of includes pool entry fee for child under 12 plus one supervising parent or guardian. My reading of this is the only increase to this commercial operator is $1.50.
Can I confirm that? I understand the entrance. I understand the entrance fee based on what I'm reading here has been settled. But can I thought it was certainly dearer than I agree with Councillor Statham, but I do agree with you that we need to have that confirmed. Who's best, Jono? Mr. Edgecombe?
So I will confirm that the proposal for the increased fee is $1.50 on top of the existing $16 charge. However, there is there is a new fee for commercial learn to swim participants, which is $5, wherein we currently charge learn to swim participants taking part in our own learn to swim classes $15.50.
So, what's the increase? Is it come down to $1?
So that the increase to the learn to swim conductor, the person conducting the learn to swim on a commercial basis, is $1.50. That's the increase to them, but their participants are charged where they're not currently charged, in the interest of clarity.
Sorry, could you please repeat that, Mr. Edgecombe?
Yeah.
Okay, so
hang on, Councillor Goodsall. I'll come to you. The question has, well, the question's been asked. So
the person conducting private learn to swim classes at the Lithgow Aquatic Centre would be charged an increased fee of $17.50, which is $1.50 on top of what they're currently charged this financial year. But their participants, the people attending their learn to swim classes, would now be charged a $5 entry fee where they're currently under this set of fees and charges. The 18-19 set of fees and charges are not currently charged.
It's the same as the council. People that are learn to swim for council, or
we charge learn to swim at $15.50 per class.
Entrance to the pool, Mr. Edgecombe, for the carers and parents of the council learn to swim classes.
As Councillor Ring noted,
It has been fixed up.
it's the wording for the entry fee, commercial learn to swim participant, is updated with the addition of this fee includes pool entry fee for a child under 12 years plus one supervising parent or guardian.
And that reflects what people pay for council learn to swim classes.
That's for commercial learn to swim participants.
Yep. Okay.
Just for me to be able to speak to Mrs Evans tonight, she's saying, and I'm only repeating what she has said, is that the council's learn to swim lessons, the carers and parents are not charged to go into the pool, and her carers and parents will be charged. I just need clarification.
So the wording for the entry fee, commercial learn to swim participant, that is a participant of the learn to swim for a commercial provider,
Which is council as well.
which is not council, that's
Right.
for Marie
That says it all.
herself.
That's all I need to know.
Includes pool entry fee for children and their plus one supervising parents. So if they are charged $5 entry to get into a commercial learn to swim providers classes, that includes the supervising parent or guardian.
So I know I'm being... So the council learn to swim classes, the children that attend those classes, I believe they're professional classes they're running, do their carers and parents pay to get in the pool, yes or no?
I would need to look into that. I'm not exactly sure because that's not the subject of the change of fee.
All right, would you please, through the General Manager, would you be kind enough to just send me an email tomorrow or something in
course.
relation to that?
Page at the bottom of page 31 explains the questions, give answers to the questions being asked by Councillor Statham.
No, because it has a commercial. It has distinctly says a commercial learn to swim class. Is
Yep.
council regarded as a commercial learn to swim class, or are they council? That's correct. Thank you.
But I take it the spectator is both those coming to watch council learn to swim and
No.
commercial learn to swim. Well, does that what an entrance fee spectator?
So I'll
I
read
would
it
have
out
thought-
again. The entry fee for commercial learn to swim participants,
Yeah.
that is a learn to swim participant for a commercial provider that is not council, includes pool entry fees for children under 12 years plus one supervising adult.
And
I do.
yeah,
Can I
yeah.
speak?
Okay, Councillor Goodsall, your
So,
question.
what I understand, I don't have a question, I understand that this private operator will have an increase of 10% on her lane hire, and if she's got clients, students, whatever, under 12 years old, and a supervisor going into the pool with them, they won't be charged.
So that is,
That is the rewording, that is point D. D on page 35 of 45.
so it's also worth noting on that the current lane hire fee is $23. So it's still less than the current lane hire fee, what a commercial operator is being charged. But the participants are allowed to bring in their parent or guardian free of charge.
Right.
For commercial learn to swim.
Yeah.
Okay, is that you satisfied, Councillor Statham? That explanation?
I may be a little...
Sorry. I thought you'd finished, Councillor Goodsall. I apologise. Sorry. Yep. Continue. Yep.
Also, it's mentioned in the same report in the Aquatic Centre, fees and charges, it's mentioned twice that this private operator is causing space issues in the pool. It's very clear that she's currently away, and then when she comes back, she's going to create more issues. I'd just like to ask what these issues are, if the operator is aware, and how they are being addressed, please.
Mr Edgecombe.
So I believe that this possibly is poorly worded.
Yeah.
I believe that the issues that are being spoken about are purely financial here, wherein if we charge a general lane hire for any general user of the pool, we charge them $25 per half an hour, we charge $23 per half an hour for any user. However, we're charging Learn to swim operators $15.50. So there's a loss of revenue based on the use of the facility that we're currently charging Learn to Swim, which is why we're trying to bring those fees more in line and commensurate with use of the facility over time.
Am I allowed to ask another question?
Yes, of course.
So I still don't understand why it's gone to 10%. Is it possible that we can raise the council fees as well as just raising this woman's fees to 10%? And how did you get to 10%?
Mr. Buckins has kindly looked up our current fees and charges, and to provide a bit of clarity to Marie, council's own Learn to Swim programs do include the entry for a child under 12 years plus one supervising parent or guardian. So it's the same for commercial and council. It's the same.
It's one part that equal between commercial or council.
And is that just up to 12 years of age?
Yes.
Yeah, for
Under
both.
12 years for both.
Councillor Goodsall, you finished with questions?
I'm not sure about the 10% thing.
All right, okay.
How do we get to the 10%?
Yep, 10%.
Chris?
So the 10% thing is from a comparison of like councils and services across the community, particularly Blue Mountains City Council. They charge up to $35, we've determined, for similar services, lane hire at facilities like ours, where more it's not really CPI, it's trying to bring our fees and charges in line with the costs incurred for running the facility and commensurate with other services provided by other councils.
So I've got one more question.
Yes.
But it clearly states in the report that no other councils provide this sort of facility to a private instructor.
Yeah, other councils provide lane hire, they don't provide Learn to Swim facilities because it's in direct competition with a service that council's providing.
I'm just really worried if this is a restrictive trade practice, because council's running it as a business and making money, and you're in competition with Mrs. Evans, and I don't know, I just don't want it to look like you are trying to perhaps move her sideways, because we cannot do that. She is a gem. And in the event that some of the council staff get pregnant, move away, get sick, and you cease to find staff, because it's very difficult in my time as mayor to find staff suitable to run Learn to Swim classes. I think we should give an allowance of cutting the 10% back to 5%, and that would be a halfway mark for a halfway decent result.
I'll repeat myself again, then you'll need to move that as amendment.
I certainly will move that as an amendment.
Does anyone want to second the amendment? And we're okay. Can you include that in your other amendment, so we can't have two amendments going at the one time under our meeting procedure? So, okay. All right. Now, Councillor Leslie, it's your turn. You've got the issue of the garden beds and the issue of the garden beds and the issue of the pool.
Unfortunately, my monitor doesn't work here, so I'm unable to read the amendment the motion that.
Mr Mayor, councillors, could I ask you to use your microphone, because we need that for the webcasting to be picked up.
Oh, of course.
You also need to fix his.
I can't.
He can't read it.
Our monitor doesn't work, so I would appreciate if someone could actually read out the original motion of points 8 and 9, just so I can get that clarified before I speak to it.
I'm happy to read those out.
I'm happy to read from here. Item 8. That the administration prepare a business case with costings for works to the intersection of Thompson Street, and that the business case, I think it says assess, ASSES, the benefit of losing the intersection. I don't know what that the project is considered in the 2021 draft operational plan. I think they're the key words. It's moved Thompson Street, the business case moved to 2021, that's item 8. Item 9, the one in relation to the Main Street of Portland, that both the cementing of the garden beds in Walgan Street, Portland, estimated cost $15,000, and drainage works to the Portland Golf Club are placed on a reserve list for 2019-20, and are funded from savings in capital works projects.
I'd like to support Councillor Statham's amendment on this, which I understand is that work be done with a priority. Yeah, and this is exactly the motion I moved some months ago, which Councillor Coleman seconded, that the revitalisation of the Portland CBD be done as a matter of priority, and that motion was defeated 7 votes to 2. Thank you, Councillor Coleman, for support on that. But we need to, and it was thank you for the code of conduct, code of meeting practice. It's all there recorded. But we need to sort of get this done. It's important that we can't just keep putting it off onto the never, never. I wanted it done as a matter of priority at the time, so it could be done in, when it could be done in the 2018-19 budget, but that was deferred. Councillor Ring at one point interjected that Councillor Statham had to show where money would be saved for this, and that's completely wrong, because that particular clause in the Code of Meeting Practice was never put to the public. And I'll read which was not put out. A motion or amendment to a motion which, if passed, would require the expenditure of funds on works and or services other than those already provided in the Council's current adopted operational plan must identify the source of funding for the expenditure that is subject of the motion. If the motion does not identify a funding source, the Council must defer consideration of the matter pending a report from the General Manager on the availability of funds for implementing the motion if adopted. That particular clause was never put to the public and was never carried by this Council, and yet we constantly get it put up every time, every Council meeting, that if you don't put it up, if you don't find a course, you can't do it. It applies with ALGA, it applies with this. It's just, I said at the time, it's just a way of making sure that the councillors don't ever get a chance to put anything up, and it's completely wrong. It was never put to the public, and it was never adopted by this Council, and yet we hear it time after time. Councillor Statham's motion amendment on this is right. The job needs doing. It needs doing now, and if that's the import of this particular amendment, I'm supported wholeheartedly. It should have been done already, and I can't understand why the Council didn't support it then.
No, Councillor Statham.
There's one word not correct.
No. You've Councillor Leslie, the second point raised by. Do we have the amendment up there, please? The proposed amendment. Do we have it there, please? I can't see it. We're dealing with the amendment at the moment.
If it's detailing the swimming pool, I'm happy with what Councillor Statham.
Okay, thank you. Could we?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, we need to just clarify the wording for the amendment. So we've got, in relation to Councillor Statham's amendment, that Portland Garden Beds project be considered in the capital works budget. That's not yours?
No, that's not what I said. I said as a matter of urgency that council staff please indicate some areas that maybe the money can be taken from.
Okay. And the second one in relation to the pool, Councillor Statham?
Yeah, that's fine. It says 5%, as I think that's what you've asked for.
That's correct.
I think it reflects correctly what you've asked for.
That's correct.
And clearly the other one was the garden beds is a matter of priority. Your priority, I think, were the words that you used, Councillor Statham, if I recall.
Yes.
Yes.
Urgent or priority.
Okay, so we're dealing with the amendment. Do we have any speakers against the amendment?
I'd just like to say that in relation to the works, as I said before, deferring them and allowing them to be done out of savings is not unreasonable. $20,000, there'll be savings in the capital works program, and I'd hate to see something that's probably more urgent that needs to be done.
No, when we get to the motion. This is the amendment we're still dealing with at the moment? Yes, Councillor Coleman.
I do support the Portland Garden Beds, but I support safety more. That stretch of road is such a dangerous corner, and I am concerned about children getting off the bus near there and being hit by a car. I think that's a priority.
Well, are you talking about Thompson Creek now?
Yeah, the point.
Well, your motion, you seconded, that's deferred to the 2021 draft operational plan. That's moved another 12 months into the future. It's moved out of this one.
With all respect, the proposed work was only on the corner, as I believe for drainage. What I'm proposing is to look at the whole area from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
Well, with respect, Councillor Ring, I have it here in front of me, that the project's considered in the 2021 draft operational plan. That's why I asked the question. The earliest this can be looked at is June 20. Is that right? The 2021 year? The earliest can be looked at? July 20. So in other words, it's not in this budget, it'll be in the next one. It's 12 months into the, it's over 12 months into the future.
So can I ask the question then?
Yes, yes.
So my understanding that we're moving that to July 20, but Councillor Ring is stating that he wants the money taken from the Portland garden beds.
No.
I'm really confused now. There's been can I get some clarification of where it's going and coming from?
I thought we just clarified it. There's two issues. The Councillor Statham's issues in relation to the garden beds, and she's put forward that they be sourced, financed as a priority in this budget. The one moved by Councillor Ring, second by yourself, is that they be put on a reserve list. Okay? Councillor Statham is asking, certainly in relation to the garden beds, that they be dealt with now as a priority. In relation to the intersection of Thompson Street issue, Councillor Statham hasn't raised that. That's in the original motion from Councillor Ring, seconded by yourself, and it's at the earliest is dealt with in July 20. 12 months, over 12 months away. Any other speakers for or against the amendment? There's no right of reply on the amendment, is there? No. So we've had, it's been moved, it's been seconded. Those in favour of the amendment, raise their hands. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. The amendment, those against? I have 2. The amendment is up. The amendment now becomes the motion. Any speakers on that? And you'll have the right of reply, Councillor Ring. You've got the right of reply. I think we've discussed it in some detail. You have the right of reply. Is that right? Yeah, you have the right of reply, Councillor Ring, on the...
Just like clarification on the amendment I put up about Thompson Street and Railway Parade.
It remains as what you've put forward, as I understand.
Okay.
That remains as what you put forward. Only what was raised by Councillor Statham, seconded by Councillor Leslie, was the garden beds and the 5% increase in the fees for the swimming fees, and it has been upheld, and it now becomes a motion. Those in favour of the motion? Those against? Declare the motion unanimous. Thank you very much. I knew that was going to take time, but we've got no choice. Financial. We have item 8.5.2.
I'll move this, but I've got a lot of concerns. I'll hear your amendment.
Okay, it's been moved, Councillor Coleman. You're moving... Just wait till we get to the recommendation. Are you moving the recommendation as written, or...?
Well, this recommendation might be a word in progress, perhaps. I am concerned that, I'll move it for the moment, but, I understand that Councillor Ring might have an amendment, which I probably will accept, depending on what it is. Look, I'm really concerned about the fact that the funds have been cut, and I need to understand why they've been cut and how they've been cut, and the community needs to understand that as well. So we need those questions answered. What I'm really concerned about is Arts Out West. The committee were really struggled with this report and cutting the funds from 10,000 to 4,000. And my understanding, we had a service agreement with Arts Out West, so it shouldn't even been in this budget. So I need that answered for a start. And I am concerned about the Lithgow Show Society. they have struggled the past few years, and we didn't have a choice but to bring it down to 7,500. But if we've got a service agreement with Arts Out West, then that money needs to come from somewhere else so that we can help the Lithgow Show Society, because I am really concerned in regards to that. But I have a lot of questions that need to be answered. And this, as I said,
So
this
can
amendment might be-
I ask then that you're moving the thrust of the recommendation except for those questions you have?
Yeah, because as I said, this amendment might be a work in progress, like
So
the last one.
Your recommendation may change based on the responses.
What I hear in this
Okay.
debate. Yeah.
All right, you comfortable with that as the seconder, Councillor Ring?
Yeah, I think Councillor Coleman will support my motion.
Okay. So the first question was in relation to Arts Out West. So your
My question is, my understanding is we had a service agreement with Arts Out West, so they were guaranteed $10,000. I need that answered. If that's the case, then that means, 4,000 could then go somewhere else. But I need those questions answered.
Okay.
I also need to understand why this budget was cut in the first place. We used to do two rounds, and we've got no remaining funds for round 2. That's really concerning. I also want those questions answered, and I also want to ask a question in regards to the email that we received by the General Manager in regards to, round 3 of the New South Wales Government Strong at Community.
Councillor Coleman, I'm going to deal with that in urgent business. Can I
Okay,
just leave
all
that
right,
to
I'll
them,
leave that
please?
there then.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try. I think it's Mr McGrath can hopefully answer those questions.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. I'll answer the first one, Councillor Coleman, and then I'll hand over to Mr Gurney for the second question, if that's okay. The first question, yes, you're right. We did have a memorandum of understanding with Arts Out West, which expired in June last year. So it appears when we looked at the records that memorandum of understanding was linked to our membership with Centroc, and because we're no longer members of Centroc, that agreement basically expired and then wasn't renewed.
Yeah, don't worry.
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor. As per Council's adopted long-term financial plan, the administration presented a balanced operating result budget to Council, which was the previous report. To balance the budget, and as was presented to Council at an information session, we needed to focus on delivering priority services for residents. And we severely had to, we had to reduce a number of budget areas, and the financial assistance grants were one of those, in order to provide the key services for residents.
I'd like to move an amendment, or point 4, that the administration provide a report on membership of Arts Out West, inclusive of a new 3-year MOU, to the next council meeting. I had raised this previously with Councillor Coleman and with Mr McGrath and Mr Faulkner, and I was advised, as being told, the MOU had expired. Regardless, it was part of Centroc, possibly administratively, something was lost, but membership is not dependent on our being a member of Centroc. This Life of Council has had 2 presentations from Arts Out West outlining the benefits, and Council has accepted it on both occasions. In this current in the draft operational plan, there's roughly 150,000 allocated for shade cover in Cook Street Plaza. That's been funded from this year, from borrowings which will be paid back next year, which is around 67,000. That will leave $83,000 that has not been committed in the budget. That money technically is for the Main Street, the CBD revitalisation area. However, when we did vote on that, we said that it was for works and or activities. So a way around this would be to use the $83,000 that we got spare. Well, to move it over, we should be able to play with the money from Halloween over into that, because that benefits the CBD, with an additional $7,000 from the recurrent funding. That leaves us around $70,000. that would allow for funding of the Arts Out West MOU, if that's how we want to go as a council, which I hope that we will. But it also leaves probably $55,000, $60,000, something of that, which has not been committed. Now, whether or not that part of that goes into this area or it goes somewhere else, that can be open for discussion. But I think we need that report to come back with all those options.
Can I just, Deputy Mayor, if that's okay, I'm happy to accept that.
The further change requested, you're happy to...
Yeah, I'm happy to accept that. And if
Okay.
that's it, if that's the case, then
Yeah.
can we...
Going to hear from other people then. If
Okay.
you're happy to, you'll have the right to reply, you've moved it. I just have a question then. If what's being proposed, that a further report be brought in relation to Arts Out West, can the 4,000 be moved to, well, I'm asking it, Councillor Coleman, can the 4,000 be moved to supplement the Lithgow Show Society? Is that doable? Okay, so that's what I'd like to see if the mover.
That's what I was going to ask, Deputy
Okay.
Mayor. You beat me to the
Sure.
punch.
Yep.
Is that $4,000 go from Arts Out West to the Lithgow Show Society?
Okay, so we'll need that as an extra point, GM. Okay. Any other speakers on the... Yes, Councillor Statham.
Yes, Deputy Mayor McAndrew. I've been on this committee since 2012. It's a productive committee, and due to health reasons and a travel trip overseas, I missed the last meeting, unfortunately. I have the understanding that there was $87,076 received in submissions, and we allocated $38,704. So as you can see, the public rely on these financial assistance funding to keep some of their, like the Red Cross Hall, for instance. Now, I'm going to declare a non-pecuniary conflict of interest that I am chairperson of the City Band, and I should have done that in the beginning, and with all the associated comments in the beginning, it was remiss of me not to declare that. Over the last 5 or 6 years, I have tried to instil in the committee and the council staff that if you run a fundraiser and you're an organising fundraising company or group, that you should keep remaining funds in your account to start your next year's fundraising. And I think we have to be very, very clear, more so than ever, with the criteria that anybody that is wishing to receive money in the financial assistance from here on in, they don't have a healthy bank account. Why should we be propping up people that have very healthy bank accounts? We should be propping up people that are working their backsides off for our community and virtually give it all away and just keep enough in the kitty to start next year's events. I think there needs to be an audit done over the next 12 months before we come to the development as financial assistance again, seeing as though there's going to be none allocated for the next round, which I find is very sad. I think we need to do an audit on every association that puts in for financial agreement, so that financial assistance, so that we know they haven't got a healthy bank account. We're here as ratepayers and councillors to do the best we can for our community, and why should we be propping up people that raise a huge amount of money and give all that away to the public locally? Yes, it's great they're generously giving to the public, but then we're dipping into our money to give to those particular people that we shouldn't be. And I can't get support for this on the committee, and I have no idea why. Now we're placed in this situation where it's a drastic situation that we're not even covering half the amount of people that have put in for money, and we're missing out on round 2. We have to look after our committees and our volunteers, and I think I'd like to see the council staff do a brief audit on people that have been applying for these grants over the last 4 years, so that we can make note of the people that have. We can't ask them for privacy reasons what amount of money they have in their bank, but surely to goodness there's several that I know of that have got very healthy bank accounts, and they're coming to us. And here it is the Red Cross who have to give every cent they make to Sydney Red Cross Australia, and we can't even give them a few dollars to put some paint on their house, on their rooms. So I really think that we've got to look at this now in a very commercial business way and make it proper for council, so that the money we're giving out is money that we need to be very careful of who we're giving that to. I have
look,
no problem with anyone getting it, it's fantastic, but I think it's come time to have an audit on the people that are receiving
Can I
it.
just, Councillor Leslie, I think you've raised a completely separate issue. I've just got some questions, if I may, coming to some of the concerns that you've got. You're on the committee, I think, aren't you? The community, I'm not on it. The Community Development Committee has a terms of reference and it has some guidelines. I thought all of those are, I thought all, if not most, if not all, cover the questions that you've just raised. You know, can somebody enlighten me, please, either staff or someone on the committee?
Councillor Statham is on the committee, and so am I. I am the chair. Unfortunately, due to what she said, she wasn't at the last meeting. However, the committee has always been consistent. They have to meet guidelines, they have to meet criteria. That's the first one. And then we have to look at budget, which is what we've done in regards to round one. And our budget has been cut, and that's what really concerns me. Those questions have been answered. As for doing an audit, I'm not quite sure where we go on that. Sorry? I mean, the General Manager can answer me in a moment. Yeah, so, I mean, but this committee is very dedicated and works really hard, as Councillor Statham has pointed out, and it's really quite simple. They meet criteria and they meet budget, and we're very consistent across the board.
Before I get the GM to answer that specific question, I just wanted to, yes, I know it's been raised that the total was 87,076 and what staff is putting forward after the input from the committee is 38,704, but it is 47,954. You need to look under that where I'm reading that there's further money allocated from this to, for example, the Tony Lithgow Civic Ballroom event. So I'm reading from the report on page 39, unless I'm wrong, and I've cleared that up with the GM. There is a further amount of money that takes to the 47,954. I'll pass to the GM to answer the question or put his view.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Council has been on a journey for the last couple of years, so the funding cutbacks that you see evidenced in areas like the community grants are because Council itself doesn't have a lot of money. And we've in fact been cutting back across all boards. It's not as though we've been taking money from community grants and spending it elsewhere. This just reflects Council's financial position, and hopefully in the near future we will be in a position where the Council has a balanced budget and is not reporting further to the local government department. So it's been a bit of a journey. In relation to the questions on audit that Councillor Statham requested, Councillor Coleman's quite right. There's a list of criteria that are set up by way of policy that Council's adopted for grant applications such as community grants. For financial assistance of less than $500, we require receipts detailing the expenditure of the funds. For financial assistance between $500 and $10,000, then we require an audited financial statement of accounts certified by the committee. And for financial assistance of more than $10,000, an audited financial statement is required from the committee. So we do have insight into the audited accounts where the amounts are greater than $500.
May I speak again or not? Please.
I think it's been satisfied, Councillor Statham. I know Councillor Goodsall is waiting to speak as well. So, Councillor Goodsall.
I just wanted to ask firstly, were Arts Out West aware that their memorandum of understanding had expired?
Well, I can't answer that.
We can't answer that through you, Deputy Mayor, but we can assume that because there was no approach that they weren't aware.
And also, there was $87,000 applied for, requested, but many didn't meet the criteria.
Yes, that's a good point.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Sorry, does the recommendation reflect what everyone's talked about? I think it does.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Coleman, I just wanted to be
That's fine.
before you reply.
It is disappointing that the budget has been cut. However, as the General Manager pointed out, that's where we are financially, and and unfortunately that's how it is. As Councillor Goodsell's pointed out, a lot of the applications didn't meet criteria. You know, the committee worked really hard. It was a very intense, stressful committee meeting. We pored over these applications, not once but twice, going back to them, coming forward, and the committee worked really hard. And Councillor Leslie was there on observer, so he could actually confirm that. It is disappointing that we don't have the money to give to everybody. I would love to give money to anybody and everybody, but we don't. I think it's important that we look at that amendment in regards to, in regards to Arts Out West. They do a lot of work for the area, and they only ask for $10,000, so that's really important.
Been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you very much. The next one is item 9.1.
Happy to move the
Community
recommendation.
Development Committee. It's been moved by Councillor Coleman. Seconded Councillor Leslie. Councillor Coleman.
It's fine. I'm happy not to speak to it.
All right, we've had a mover and we seconder. All those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried unanimously. We now have item 10, notices of motion. Plastic-free morning tea. Councillor Coleman.
My motion is that Lithgow City Council 1 host a plastic-free morning tea during the month of July, which would be a fun way to encourage not only council but the wider community to sign up or to give up one of the top offending plastic produce, plastic shopping bag, plastic straws, disposable plastic water bottles and disposable coffee cups. The number 2 is conduct an internal...
Sorry, Councillor Coleman, I didn't get a seconder. My mistake. Was a seconder for the notice of motion? Yeah, Councillor Goodsell. Sorry.
That's all right. Conduct an internal bin audit for the educational purposes to discover how plastic is disposed of in Council's office. On the 20th of June, councillors across the state received the Local Government New South Wales Weekly, which is sent to you by email through Linda Scott. She mentioned that the state budget made no allocation to respond to the growing waste crisis. In July 2018, China decided it would no longer take what we call foreign garbage, a lot of which came from Australia. It banned the import of 24 categories of solid waste in order to protect China's environment and public health. The Plastic Free Foundation mission is to build a global movement that dramatically reduces plastic using and improving recycling. To this end, it's called for all global citizens to collectively address one of the world's greatest environmental challenges, plastic waste. Did you know that the original plastic straw that you drank when you were a kid is still floating around in the environment? Just think about that. If you've been on this planet and you're 65 years old, that original straw that you drank from is floating around in the environment.
I hope you're not looking at me at 65, Councillor.
No, I'm not. I'm looking... My mother's 65. But still, back then, I know, and I'm not looking at you, Councillor McAndrew, and I'm not looking at you, Councillor Statham. My mother is 65 today. So that's why I mention it. As I said to my mother, that original straw that you drank out of is still floating around in the environment, and it's in our waterways and it's in our oceans, affecting our marine life. However, it's all about education. It's all about challenging people to give up something. The Lithgow boomerang bags do a great job, and I carry mine everywhere I go. I have, in my bag of goodies, I have my boomerang bag, I have my recyclable coffee cup, I have my water bottle that I carry with me, I have my straw that I carry with me, I even purchase toilet paper wrapped in paper. No, it's paper. Yeah, but they're recyclable and reusable. It's all about reusable. And my boomerang bags that I take to Aldi. So that's my point. My point is it's about education and giving the community an option to look at perhaps giving up, you know, a shopping bag or two or plastic straw or disposable, making sure they carry their bottles everywhere they go. It's a fun way to educate people on the issues of plastic.
Councillor Goodsall.
Yeah, I support this. I'm not particularly fond of point 2, however. First of all, I'd like to see, if the morning tea does go ahead, I'd like it to go out to all the public schools, all the high schools, engage them and get them to participate, because our young ones are really, really keen on recycling. I'm not, I don't support the internal bin audit on council officers, and I just find that would be a little bit intrusive, but totally support point 1.
Before I open it up to other speakers, happy birthday, Councillor Statham. I thought you said it was. I thought you said it was today. You said you was 65 today. Okay, no worries. Oh, sorry, Councillor. Councillor Leslie.
Every sort of organisation across the sort of the government and this sort of well, so what? It doesn't matter. It might be and they're proudly said there's 1 million plastic straws in this thing. Millions that are around. I mean, it's hardly not really using the so be it. But at least we know the facts.
GM's nodding his head to say it's no issue. So, and I agree with Councillor Leslie. It's we need to start in our own organisation first and an audit. I do agree it's important. Any other comments, questions in relation to it? You're right to reply. I think you've put your point pretty clearly, Councillor Coleman. Except having a shot at some of our oldest people, but
We just clarify that, please, because at 65, you didn't have a plastic straw as a kid; they were all paper.
all right.
Gotta get your
I
facts right, Councillor.
shouldn't have started that. No,
I did not
Yeah,
have a go at anybody in this room
Yeah.
at all.
I understand that. A joke. Councillor Coleman, a joke. A joke. I was trying to be funny. All right, but a move and a second. Of those in favour? Those against? Declared it carried unanimously. Next issue is urgent business, and I've got to deal with something that Councillor Coleman raised earlier. We've only just today received a letter from the Honourable John Barilaro MP, Deputy Premier, in relation to round 3 of the New South Wales Government Stronger Country Communities Fund. The reason I raise it, and I'm going to agree that it's urgent, is that once again, when there's money coming forward, there's a tight timeline. So there's availability, the funding available for projects in Lithgow local government area is 843,954. But the applications open on the 1st of July. The application closed on the 27th of September. That might seem a long way, but not and I'll get the General Manager to explain why this is urgent and so important, because there's a process, as you all know now, that we've got to go through engaging with our community. So I'll ask the GM to explain why this matter needs to be dealt with urgently.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, what the administration is looking for from Council today is approval to go out and consult with the community on this issue, because the contents of the letter indicate that consultation with the community is required, and given the timeframe that we experience in consultation processes, that is getting the council to approve going out, getting the people to put their submissions in, compiling those submissions and then coming back to council with a list of recommendations based on the submissions, it puts us very close to the end application date of September this year. So we don't want to be caught out as we have been with the current drought funding of $1 million, where 3 weeks ago, for instance, we finished up that process of getting public submissions, coming to council, getting approval, lodging the application. We're still waiting for an approval from the federal government on that one. So that's the reason why we want to move quickly on this, and we're looking for approval from council to start the consultation process.
Could I ask a question, please, first?
Just before.
If council were willing to move a recommendation that approval is given to the administration to proceed with community consultation in relation to round 3 of the New South Wales Government Stronger Country Communities Fund.
So we've got movers.
I moved it.
And I think Councillor Staten did
Yep.
have her hand up earlier, and I know Councillor Leslie was trying as well. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Speakers for or against the motion?
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah, so do I.
Well,
In the
can't the
letter I...
mover speak first?
Sorry,
Yeah.
yes, thank you. Councillor Staten.
Well, this is something that I didn't know about, and I'm absolutely delighted to hear this news. Is there any way that we could incorporate, to save council staff and council general manager some time to go through the drought relief issues, or not issues, the drought relief submissions that were unsuccessful? Could we pour through those, the few that were unsuccessful, and maybe choose a couple of those main ones that were unsuccessful with the drought, so that that would assist in helping council make some sort of consideration?
With the Mayor's concurrence, I might just quickly read out the contents of the letter so the council understand the requirements. So it's addressed to Mayor Thompson. It's dated, hasn't got a date on it, but it was received today. It says, Dear Councillor Thompson, I write regarding the Round 3 of the New South Wales Government Stronger Country Communities Fund. Round 3 will provide an additional $100 million for community projects in regional New South Wales, and includes at least $50 million for youth-related projects. This brings the total funding of the Stronger Country Communities Fund to $400 million, and the total value of the Regional Growth Fund to $1.7 billion. Round 3 of the fund will open on 1 July 2019. Round 3 of the fund will open for 13 weeks to all eligible applicants in July 2019. Complementing the fund's traditional focus on community infrastructure to improve everyday living, in 2019 there will be an increased focus on young people aged 12 to 24 and a broader scope of eligible projects including programs as well as local infrastructure. It then gives key dates, with applications open 9 a.m. on the 1st of July, applications closing at 5 p.m. on the 27th of September. That's Friday the 27th of September. Between October and January 2020, projects are assessed, and from January 2020, successful projects are expected to be announced. The funding available for projects in Lithgow local government area is $843,954. Funding will be allocated to projects that clearly demonstrate community support for projects and align with the program objectives, noting at least 50% of the Round 3 funding available in your local government area will be allocated to projects supporting young people. So that's about $420,000 to projects supporting young people. It goes on to say, after listening to feedback from applicants and the community, some changes will be introduced for Round 3 of the fund. These include extending the open period to 3 months, extending the funding period from 2 years to 3 years to allow applicants sufficient time to deliver projects, opening the Round 2 applications directly from eligible community groups who will be responsible for delivering projects if successful, Not conducting choice modelling, applicants will be required to provide evidence of community consultation and support for projects in the application. It then goes on to give details of the website for further information, and it says, I urge your council to start consulting with the community in preparing applications for round 3 as early as possible. That's the nuts and bolts of it all. Yep.
You seconded it? Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Councillor. Well, can we change that, please? Change that, please. I'm reading the. Okay, Councillor Leslie.
As you realise, I was quite critical of the initial funding proposals for the drought one, where 50%, $500,000 was going to go on drains in Lithgow Valley, but eventually that did not happen. We looked at different fundings and different things happened here, but this particular one is different. It's not specifically for droughts or anything. It does, however, indicate a sort of a requirement to consider youth, but I'm happy for that, just for administration to take that into account, but not necessarily to sort of put a specific figure to it. But so if we can get, from the state government on this funding, for our drains, well and good. This is what this sort of funding for infrastructure is for, and in my view, it's not cheating like I felt it was last time, and as I put in that email that went to everyone. So here's something that we need to do. We need to, but also the bit in the letter that's sort of recommending that we should be approaching local organisations. Well, a number sort of come to mind. The Zigzag, of course, the State Mine Museum, of course, the Small Arms Factory Museum, and those bodies, and there are others, of course, that we need to advise those people as well that this money is available, and that there's an opportunity, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that there's an opportunity for them to put in a direct submission themselves and work for that. So let's work with our community on this matter. An infrastructure, badly needing in this area to be fixed, and so it's a great opportunity, and I congratulate the government for carrying through on this one. And let's work with it.
Yeah, look, could I just make a couple of comments before I ask for any more input? On the second page, it's urging, has been rightfully pointed by a number of councillors, your council will start consulting with the community, preparing applications for round 3 as early as possible. But equally for our staff and our GM, the guidelines and other online resources will be available to assist applicants, so we'll get a better idea, coming back to the questions asked by Councillor Statham earlier. And I note that our local business development manager will be Edward Frater, who we have a good relationship with what part of government he is now, Premier and Cabinet, and I know we'll get a lot of support from Edward Frater as well in relation to our applications. So have we got any? Yes, Councillor Coleman.
I note, and I just want that clarified, that 50% of the round 3 funding allocated needs to go to young people. That's correct. So it says here 50% of round 3 funding available in your local government area will be allocated to projects supporting young people. Is that correct? Is that what I read in that letter?
Councillor Coleman, that's correct. The only thing we don't have is the criteria they've set down for those funding arrangements, and that would be available on the website, simply because of the timing today. We haven't had a chance to look at it.
So that means, if I may ask this question, that means Lithgow Information and Neighbourhood Centre, who run programs for young people, could actually benefit from this funding. Is that correct?
Based on what the reading of that, I would expect so. But we'll have that clearer when we engage certainly with Edward Frater.
Because a lot of those that didn't meet financial assistance in regards to the Community Development Committee may able to benefit from this funding. Is that correct? If they meet criteria.
Well, I don't know. Look, one of the reasons we've raised it urgently tonight is to get it off, get it going, and give our staff and the GM the opportunity to engage with certainly Ed Frater and The guidelines, well, we haven't even got the guidelines
So you haven't
yet.
even got the, so when do you get the guidelines? Sorry, if I can ask that question.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't say there, but the GM may know.
I think we would access the guidelines tomorrow on their
Okay.
website. And to take your point, for those that have applied and missed out on funding, there's nothing to stop us from alerting them to the fact that the
look, that's
guidelines are
good.
there, and
Yeah.
they can make application if they so wish.
Yep, okay, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Ring.
I think one of the critical things of this that we need to understand is the community do not have to come through council as with past processes. Community groups can apply directly for this grant funding. It's in the letter. Yep, that's
Yeah.
exactly what you
Yeah.
said. I'm just reinforcing that because council staff need to take that in consideration as well. There'll be groups out there that may apply directly and not come through council. I don't agree with using the money necessarily for the drainage. I think it needs to be put out, and we need to talk to the community. That's the whole purpose of this process. Let the community have their input. And I support fully 50% going for the youth. We have enough problems in this community, and if we can do something that helps them, so much the better.
If I ease your mind, Councillor Ring, I think it's pretty clear. Start consulting with the community and preparing application for round 3 as early as possible. I think that's quite clear. It's been moved that I think you've got it all there. The administration commenced a consultation with the community on prospects projects for the New South Wales Government Stronger Country Communities Fund and commenced preparations of an application. So it's been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favour? Those against? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item, is there any other business of great urgency? The next item then will be closed council.
I'll move to go into closed council.
Okay, it's been moved Councillor Statham. It's been seconded Councillor Goodwin.
Webcast is off. We're switching the webcast off.
Okay. The GM has informed me that the webcasting is off, but that doesn't mean people can play up. So. Is there any, before we move into closed council, is there anyone that wants to speak against moving into closed council, or any comments from the public? Okay, well, thank you. We'll take a 5-minute break.